Barry, you got time for a chat?
Yeah, good one, yeah.
Mate, I have brought along my fiscal envelope.
That's the one that we all live inside, right?
Mine is absolutely empty. Mate, you were talking about bringing some increased or some reduced deductions to the table for the tax system. My understanding is that the top 9% of income earners are already paying about 50% of the total personal tax revenue in Australia.
Because they earn a lot more than
and that doesn't include the tax exposure of their companies and their payroll tax liabilities.
And most of that they write off.
And the bottom 60% of income earners are paying nothing or next to nothing. What do you think is actually a fair...
60%.
Yes, the bottom 25% is nothing.
The bottom 40%
is 9%.
It's more accurate than the bottom 60. Yeah.
Well, approximately 60%.
No, 40. When you say next to nothing, that's the bottom 40%. When you get up towards 60%, they're paying quite a sizable amount of their money in income taxes.
I'll go back and check my figures, but I added it up as 61%. What do you think would be fair? I mean, how taxed should the upper echelons of Australian income earners be? How heavy should the burden fall on them?
It depends whether you're talking corporations or individuals.
Both.
You're talking about wealthy individuals who are PAYE taxpayers, or you're talking about corporations?
Look, individuals have tax liabilities, companies have tax liabilities. It presumably will all work out in the mix.
Yeah.
When the 2014 budget was announced, my view was we've got a deficit problem going into the future. We need to do something about it. People criticised it. I'm very much in favour of let's live within our means. If there are sensible ways we can balance the budget, then we should move towards those things. A mix of individual taxation, corporate taxation, payroll taxes, but all of those things have got to be paid for by somebody.
Yeah.
And the people who seem to be complaining the most are the people who aren't exposed to the big levels of taxation, or in many cases no taxation at all.
The reason that they're not exposed to it is because they're not earning enough money. They're not earning enough money. We shouldn't be calling on people with very small incomes to pay more.
Well, I agree and I disagree. I had been a property owner.
Ask people on very small incomes to pay more in income taxes than they already do. That's not fair.
The other side of it is I would like them to stop complaining that they're not getting enough.
I think people are entitled to complain or praise. It's a free country.
It's a free country, absolutely. Now, I put a suggestion into the Senate inquiry into corporate tax avoidance that the tax office organise a system for ex-tax officers like myself to volunteer their time free of charge to go in under secrecy provisions and access the AUSTRAC database of financial transactions within Australia and overseas, looking for potential issues of people not returning income that matches the level of fund transfers that are going on.
Interesting exercise, but let me give you one example. You're thinking about lower income earners and what more that they can contribute. Think about this, the way that the superannuation system works. Somebody in a very high income who have already put away at a concessional rate $2 million in superannuation can still salary sacrifice at a concessional rate.
I disagree with that completely.
Right, so we should be looking at both ends of the scale, well, particularly at the higher end of the scale.
Mate, before I started in the tax office 35 years ago, I owned a couple of rental properties, and I didn't think it was fair in a pre-CGT environment that I would get a discount, a tax deduction for my rental losses. So like a fool, I never claimed the rental losses because I didn't think it was fair.
Yep.
Once they brought in capital gains tax, I thought, okay, the playing field is levelled. and I started claiming my negative gearing losses. But of course this only works, you've got to pay $1 to get 40 cents back. And I was living in Albury for most of that period, and there is very little capital gain on properties outside the capital cities. So I think there ought to be some recognition of the fact that the city people are doing it better in many cases than the country people.
There's some room for negative gearing, but somebody like me, right, I can buy a beach house.
Yes.
Rent it out for 10 months of the year.
Yes.
With not great prospects of making any money, right? I'm not going to make money on it, not because I've got such a big mortgage over it. So I can salary sacrifice against that.
Yes.
I make a benefit at that end, and I can negatively gear the beach house. Now, why? Why when I was going to buy that beach house anyway? That's not fair, and that you're saying, no, low-income earners should pay more. And yet they allow people on my salary to get away with that. Now, I do it because it's legal, it's available to me.
Look, maybe there is prospect provision for looking at personal circumstances to determine whether deductions should be allowed or not.
Yeah, means test.
But how? Well, indeed. I mean, luxury cars. I used to think it was a bit of a problem where your average businessman driving a Commodore was able to claim $10,000 a year deduction, let's say, from motor car expenses, but someone driving their Ferrari could claim $500,000 of deductions for one thing and another.
That's not right.
And they did bring in some caps on the luxury car claims that were allowed. So by all means look at variations to the theme, but my overall view is that the people who are paying the most tax are legitimately allowed to feel concern that the people who aren't paying much at all get all of the running in the media and the complaints.
We've already gone on longer than an Insiders panel discussion.
Good on you, mate.
Okay.
I thought the show was pretty balanced today, mate.
Okay, good, yeah. There was a bit of debate, a bit of argument. That's what you want. You don't want everybody agreeing with one another.
Now, speaking of a cherry on a dung heap, do you think that Brian Aller will go into politics?
I get the impression he's interested. He keeps making big political points.
Thanks, mate.